everyone, Election Watch Analysis here, and welcome back to another 2024 election prediction. Today, I'll be doing Ron DeSantis, Governor of Florida, versus Joe Biden, of course, the incumbent president. I'll be making this video as if the election is being held on September 1st, 2021, as opposed to my usual style, which is just predicting based on data that is happening at the moment. Basically because Joe Biden is currently at his lowest point so far in his presidency after his unpopular withdrawal from Afghanistan. And what I mean by that is that the way he handled the withdrawal is unpopular, not the withdrawal itself. Meanwhile, Ron DeSantis is in no way in his prime. He has lost a lot of support based on his handling of the resurgence of COVID-19 in Florida, yet he is still in a lot better position than Joe Biden. So without further ado, let's get started with the safe states for both candidates. For DeSantis, much of the Midwest would be safe as per usual for a GOP candidate. All of Nebraska and I believe Kansas would also be safe, along with Oklahoma and much of the South. The one state I'll change here is South Carolina, which was likely in 2020, and Alaska, another likely state in 2020, moving up to safe. Meanwhile, for Joe Biden, I think the Pacific Coast, including Oregon just barely, would all be safe. Of course, Hawaii and the Eastern Seaboard would be safe, but I actually have a few exceptions. So, I believe that New Jersey and Connecticut would not be safe, though New York would be, and actually I'm going to leave Maine's 1st district for a little later, but of course Illinois will be safe as per usual. So Joe Biden is at 159 electoral votes, and Ron DeSantis at 125. You'll usually see a Democratic candidate have at least 180 electoral votes considered safe, so Joe Biden is definitely underperforming. Ron DeSantis' likely states will include Iowa, Ohio, Maine's 2nd district, Florida, and Texas. That puts him at 219 electoral votes. Meanwhile, Joe Biden would have Colorado, New Mexico, Virginia, Connecticut, New Jersey, Maine's 1st district, and that will be all. So a little bit of background for some of these. If you go back to 2016, Delaware was likely, and New Jersey and Connecticut were just barely safe. And the reason why Delaware is not likely is because Joe Biden is quite popular there. It is his home state. So that's why I'm putting those as likely. Meanwhile, Maine's 1st district was also just above the safe margin, so I think that Ron DeSantis do much better with the white voters there. Now we have the lean states. So I'll start off with Ron DeSantis' lean states. North Carolina would be lean, and that actually may be all besides Nebraska's 2nd district, putting him now at 236 electoral votes. Joe Biden currently at 209 electoral votes. I believe he would win Maine at large by a very the low end of a lean margin, around 2%. Same thing with New Hampshire, definitely a decrease from its 2020 margins. And that will be all for the lean states. So now we get into some of the tilt states, the closest states. 87 electoral votes up for grab. Ron DeSantis currently at 236 electoral votes, Joe Biden at 215. I'll start off with the Rust Belt and then go down to the Sun Belt. I think Minnesota will go to Ron DeSantis by a tilt margin. This state is definitely trending to the left, with the Minneapolis suburbs going more and more towards the Democrats. Meanwhile, the rural areas, of course, are shifting right, and there's a little bit of room to grow there for the GOP, but definitely the suburbs will be the ones that decide the future of elections in Minnesota. So I think if the election was held on September 1st, they would not vote for Joe Biden nearly by the margin they voted for him in 2020, giving Joe Biden the state by around the Hillary Clinton 2016 margin, a little under 1.5%. Meanwhile, Wisconsin, definitely tilt R. It could potentially go up to 1% if Ron DeSantis does well enough. But here's the thing. Wisconsin is trending right comparatively to Minnesota. The GOP definitely has a ton of room to grow with ancestral Democrats in the rural areas. And while the wild counties shifted to the left in 2020, the Republicans could definitely stop the bleeding there with a candidate like Ron DeSantis. The state went to Joe Biden by such a narrow margin in 2020, it is entirely possible that the Republicans win it back in 2024. Meanwhile, Michigan. This one is a very hard call to make, but I think that Ron DeSantis would ultimately win it. He would do a lot better with affluent white voters and pretty much blue-collar white voters, gaining with the GOP in rural Michigan, with some of the areas that still have room to grow in. Ron DeSantis would definitely win back a similar coalition to Trump in 2016 and take the state narrowly. I think he would win it by around 0.1%, even less than Trump did back in 2016. And Pennsylvania, you can probably see where this is going. I do believe it will go to Ron DeSantis, putting him over 270 electoral votes, now at 280. This, as you can see, is not as much of a surprise to some political junkies. The Rust Belt rarely breaks, of course, besides Minnesota, but Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania usually vote in a single block. Definitely, Pennsylvania's suburbs would shift back to the right, while Joe Biden could definitely, Ron DeSantis would definitely keep the Republican ground in the rural areas, and that would definitely be enough to shift the state back to the right. So now, Ron DeSantis has won, but we still have 33 electoral votes up for grab in the Sun Belt. I'll start off with Nevada. I think Joe Biden would very, very narrowly win it. The Las Vegas suburbs would definitely really be the places that actually let Joe Biden win the state. He would regress in Clark County and in Washoe County, the two biggest counties in the state. And Ron DeSantis would have a real shot at winning Nevada, probably the best for any candidate since George W. Bush. I think DeSantis would also sweep Arizona and Georgia. He would win them by taking down a lot of the Democratic margins in the suburbs and doing better with rural minorities in both states. So that leaves Ron DeSantis with 307 electoral votes, Joe Biden at 231. Ron DeSantis then outperforms Donald Trump's 2016 margin, which is currently the baseline, as it seems, for any winning candidate. So, thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like so it can help spread on YouTube. Subscribe for more content such as this, or for any of my election nights or alternate history. And leave a comment telling me any suggestions for future videos or what you thought of the prediction. And so, thank you all for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel on the right, look at another video on the left, and I'll see you all next time.